Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here on this rainy, hot summer day. It is an honor to share this moment with you all. My name is Cam Morales, and I am the co-chair of the advisory board for the Alliance for American Leadership, a first-of-its-kind organization dedicated to cultivating the next generation of principled, visionary leadership. It is a shared commitment that brings us here all together tonight, and it is a great pleasure to introduce someone who embodies the very spirit of that mission. He is a dear friend, he is a young leader of exceptional talent, and he inspires and uplifts those around him. He is the driving force behind this movement, and he is the executive director of the Alliance for American Leadership. Please join me in welcoming the executive director, Asher Moss.
Sorry about that, guys. Well, thank you guys all for coming out tonight, braving the storm. I know it was crazy out there. I'll tell you, when this event was starting out, we had like maybe, 10 people in here at 6:45, and I was like, no one's gonna come. This is not gonna work. Well, sure enough, people showed up. So I'm so grateful to all of you for being here tonight. I also want to say a special thank you to the members of our host committee and the sponsors this evening. That is Eleanor Dehoney, Cheryl Janey, Lauren Hershey, Evan Davies, Pierre Ahel, Rhonda Lees, Michael Calhoun, Joel Stennett, Cam Morales, of course, Michael Belitsky, Malik Ross, Danny Suarez, Nicole Rogers, Samuel Gertzen-Schumi, Abigail Bowman, Jordan Henderson, and Ryan Lee. So, big list of people. Give a round of applause for all of them for helping us put together this event tonight. But I also want to thank all the people around the country who are fighting for this cause. To everyone in the USAID community who didn't give up when their agency was shut down, but who fought, who stood up for what they knew was right, who stood up for our country, for American leadership, for humanitarian aid, for doing the right thing on the world stage, and for the 14 million lives that all of us know are at risk if we can't get these foreign aid programs restarted. So give a round of applause for everyone in the USAID community who is here tonight and who is out organizing around the country. Their advocacy is a reminder that silence is not an option, that we have to speak up and we have to fight back. So what is the Alliance for American Leadership? Why are you guys all here tonight? So, we're a nonpartisan political action committee with one simple goal: bring back foreign assistance. We are going to reverse the cuts to foreign assistance programs. So I founded this organization in January after the pause in USAID funding, and I can tell you that the reason I founded it was pretty simple. I was reading stories each day about the people whose lives were being lost due to these foreign assistance cuts. I was looking at the PEPFAR impact counter rising every day, knowing about that rising death toll, and I realized we had to do something. So the first thing that I did was I reached out to congressional staffers that I knew. So my background is I worked for a while in Jerry Connolly's office, best congressman that I have ever seen. He was Mr. Foreignaid when he was a congressional staffer, and of course he continued that fight on Capitol Hill. So I reached out to people in his office, I reached out to other staffers I knew, and I started asking people to do the same. I said, listen, we can get these programs restarted if we talk to people and we get the word out there. And slowly, that morphed into this coalition. We now have 500 campaign volunteers in over 39 states. Fighting to restore foreign assistance programs. And those campaign volunteers and field directors are the heart of our effort here. Our mission is to make foreign aid a local priority issue for every member of Congress. When we make strategic investments in foreign aid. It saves lives, strengthens alliances between America and its allies, and bolsters our national security. It also helps nonprofits, small businesses, family farms, and other people here in the U.S. that provide that food, medicine, and life-saving care that people around the world depend upon. Foreign aid is not just a good investment. It's a local investment in every congressional district. And that is what we are saying to policymakers on the Hill. We recognize that we're not going to win this fight here in D.C. We're going to win it in Virginia, in Mississippi, in Maine, in Indiana, and in my home state of Florida. We're going to win it because of people like Thomas Whitcott, the youngest nominee for Congress in 2024, who is now organizing hundreds of volunteers for our organization in Florida to fight for foreign assistance. We're going to win it because of people like Nita Hadi, who knocked on 565 doors the last week of Walkinshaw's primary campaign, getting out the vote for a hero for American leadership. We're going to win it because of people like Josh Higginbottom. Josh was the youngest member of the West Virginia House of Delegates, and now he is organizing our chapter in West Virginia. And we're going to do the same thing in each state across the country where we believe we can pressure policymakers to restart these foreign assistance programs. So what's our first issue here? Most Americans don't understand what the foreign aid budget actually looks like. Polling shows most Americans think we spend 25% of the budget on foreign aid. Frankly, that would be a bit ridiculous, and we don't. It's less than 1%. So the very first mission of everyone in this room tonight is tell your friends, tell your family, tell your community, we spend less than 1% on foreign aid. And that kind of funding has saved millions of lives and made America a leader on the world stage. It's that simple. And we're going to continue telling that message across the country. We are on track right now to have 10,000 campaign volunteers and field directors on our team by the midterm elections. We have 500 right now, and we're growing by 20 every day. I know people in this room are field organizers. They are recruiting. They are doing an incredible job, and we are building that local support for foreign assistance. But we're also working with policymakers on Capitol Hill to save foreign aid programs. One of our priorities over the past couple months has been protecting funding for PEPFAR. PEPFAR is an HIV/AIDS prevention and treatment program that saved 26 million lives since President Bush started it 2 decades ago. And we're explaining to policymakers that this isn't just a humanitarian program, but it has real national security impacts. And guess what? I was having my coffee this morning, first cup, had another one here, reading Punchbowl News, and this is what I saw. The rescissions package touches on foreign aid programs as well as public broadcast funding. Senator Susan Collins, the Appropriations Committee chair, is among the leading skeptics of the proposal. There's also Senator Tom Tillis, a new wild card of sorts after he announced he isn't running for re-election in 2026. Tillis said that while he's sympathetic to the argument that cutting foreign aid undermines national security, he expects to vote yes. I'm planning on supporting it, but there are people who have expressed soft power national security concerns. And this was right after, yesterday, our advocates met with Senator Tom Tillis, our national security team led by General Bo Mahaney and Danny Suarez, and 30 of our constituent advocates met with Senator Tom Tillis' office, and we met with Susan Collins' office, and we explained to them the real national security impact here. Because what we fundamentally believe is that when you give good information to policymakers, when you put them in front of experts and their constituents, and maybe if you provide a bit of political backing too, we can change votes. And that's the mission here. We can bring back foreign aid. So with that, I want to introduce member of our board and champion of American leadership, Cheryl Janey.
Thank you, Asher. Cheryl Janey. I'm a retired defense industry executive. I say retired, which means I no longer work for money. But that doesn't mean I don't work. And I am delighted to be on this board and working with the very important mission of continuing aid, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it's vital to our national security. I have the honor tonight to introduce to you our speaker of the moment, a man who is deeply committed to the community, to our country, and to this cause. Little known fact that I found out earlier, James Walkinshaw's grandfather worked for USAID. He started his career working early for Congressman Jerry Conley, who you already heard mentioned this evening, and then went on to serve as a supervisor in Fairfax County, Virginia, running local government. As Jerry moved on to his, what I like to call his next adventure, one of the last things Jerry Conley did was work very hard to throw his support behind James Walkinshaw and to get himself and those who knew him active. James won the Democratic primary for the 11th district seat decidedly. It is my pleasure, my honor to introduce to you my friend, James Walkinshaw, the next congressman from the 11th district of Virginia.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. Cheryl and I have known each other for a long time. She is an incredible leader here in Washington, but more importantly, in our home of Fairfax County. Thank you for everything that you do and contribute. And to Asher and the Alliance, I am blown away and amazed by what you all have accomplished already. And I so look forward to seeing the incredible things that the Alliance will do. I've been waiting 42 years to say this, but I'm so impressed by what these young people have done. So congratulations to you all. And I am here for a lot of reasons, but I'll give you two. I'm here tonight for Amran and Marwan. And some of you probably read the Washington Post series recently on the impacts of the cuts to U.S. aid and to U.S. foreign assistance. And Amran was a 3-year-old living in South Sudan. And he died in his mother's arms for lack of a very basic medicine. He died of a chest infection. And he died because the United States of America eliminated the funding for the program that had been delivering that medicine to his community for many years. Marwan is his twin brother, who's still here and wondering tonight, I'm sure, where his brother is. And that's why we're all here. All of us who are here tonight are motivated, I know, by the moral imperative of the United States continuing to play an active role in the world. But the importance of the mission of the Alliance is not to speak to the choir of those of us who already believe in that moral imperative, but in the hopes of growing that coalition nationally, which is absolutely critical. So thank you for being here and being a part of that. As Cheryl mentioned, I was Jerry Connolly's chief of staff for 11 years. As Asher mentioned, he earned the moniker Mr. Foreignaid when he was a young staffer on the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee, working for a young senator at the time by the name of Joseph Robinette Biden. And they worked together for many years to expand U.S. assistance across the globe. And his laser-focused commitment and conviction to the importance of foreign aid never wavered, whether it was through his defense of PEPFAR pushing for robust global health funding, standing up for democracy in Eastern Europe and Ukraine, or supporting USAID. And let me just stop for a moment. I just want to ask all of the USAID employees or contractors to raise their hands. Put your hands up. Any other federal employees, current or former, put your hands up. Let's give all of them a round of applause. I really think that we need to normalize, just as at so many events throughout our nation, we ask our veterans to rise and be recognized for their service appropriately. I think we should be asking all of our federal workers to do the same everywhere in this country for the incredible service that they provide. So thank you all for doing that. Look, this is really important. The stakes are high. We know that across the United States, there is a growing trend toward isolationism. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are the faces of it. They're the ones executing it today, but it doesn't end with them. There is a growing movement for the United States to turn inward, to slash the very tools that have defined our leadership in the post-war era. And the Trump administration's efforts to decimate U.S. aid are not just misguided, they're dangerous. He's proposed cuts of 30, 40, or 50% to all U.S. foreign assistance programs that fight poverty, improve global health, stabilize fragile states, and prevent conflict. And those attacks aren't just on budgets. Those have been attacks on the very people, the folks who had their hands raised, many of whom I hope to represent, who have served in the most challenging circumstances at home and abroad, and they've been targets of smear campaigns, quite frankly. I don't know any other way to describe it. It's despicable to describe career civil servants, most of whom could make a lot more money doing other things, but have decided to dedicate themselves to advancing our American values. They deserve our respect, not to be vilified by conspiracy theories or political attacks. Even worse, those attacks have undermined decades of bipartisan consensus. And I was speaking earlier to a Republican who's here about how can we rebuild bipartisanship in this country. And for decades, there was more or less a bipartisan consensus around the importance of the United States playing an active role in the world. That consensus is being decimated today. And when we create a vacuum, and we are creating vacuums across the globe, vacuums don't go unfilled. That vacuum is being filled today, most often by China, through their very aggressive Belt and Road Initiative, which continues their predatory lending practices, their authoritarian model of development. And if we continue to allow that vacuum to persist, they will continue to fill it. And Asher said it well. U.S. foreign aid represents less than 1% of our federal budget. And you all have seen, and some of you probably contributed to the studies demonstrating that the cuts just in the last 6 months have likely led to at least 89,000 unnecessary deaths around the world. And I think if you ask almost any American, including those who voted for President Trump, would you be willing to spend pennies, a couple of pennies as a taxpayer, to save the life of Marwan or 89,000 other people, including children around the world? The answer would be, for most Americans, a resounding yes. But so many myths persist about the amount of our budget that goes to foreign aid. We know here that foreign aid is not just a charity. It keeps us safe. It creates new markets for American goods that benefit American companies and American workers. It helps to contain disease outbreaks before they reach American shores. And it, most importantly, I would say, projects the best of who we are as Americans. Our values, our compassion, our innovation, our ability to deliver life-saving interventions to every corner of the globe. And I think if you're a student of history and you look back at the superpowers throughout history, the Roman Empire, the British Empire, the United States of America is unique. Far from perfect, but unique in that we have made delivering life-saving interventions, lifting people out of poverty and relieving suffering core to our national mission. It is part of who we are as Americans. And yes, it supports jobs and economic activity here at home, including in Northern Virginia, that I hope to represent in Congress. And cutting funding less than 1% of the total budget does nothing to address the deficit. And all of those reasons are why I am so inspired by the Alliance and the work that you all are doing. You're stepping into that breach and helping to rebuild a bipartisan coalition around smart and strategic engagement. And I think the approach the Alliance is taking makes perfect sense, because I will tell you one thing about politicians. Politicians, in order to be successful, you have to learn what is rewarded and what is punished at the ballot box. All of these high-minded ideas are nice, but at the end of the day, all 535 members of Congress have to wake up thinking about, will my constituents vote for me or against me based on this issue? And we have to show up in the offices of 535 members of Congress with their constituents, making it very clear that if you don't support U.S. foreign aid, we won't support you when you run for re-election. That's what we have to do all across this country, and I'm so appreciative of the Alliance doing that. It is not easy work. As I said, isolationism is surging. Slogans like America First that we've heard before in this country threaten to become more than just a slogan and a long-standing policy. But I'm very confident that with folks like the Alliance doing this work, that we can stem the tide and turn this around. If I have the honor of serving in Congress, and I know we have a number of folks from the 11th District here, you have my commitment to work alongside you. I want to see us restore and expand the funding for foreign aid, including USAID, so we can respond to crises around the globe quickly and strategically. We need to protect and restore funding for the Global Fund and PEPFAR, as was mentioned. We need to defend democracy and civil society in the face of rising authoritarianism around the globe. And obviously that is more challenging given the challenges to democracy that we face here at home, but more important than ever. We have to support women's empowerment, education, and economic inclusion in developing nations, because we know those are the investments that have the highest long-term return. And we have to stand up to those in the White House, in Congress, on the campaign trail, who want to turn foreign aid into a punching bag. We got to push for accountability and transparency, no question, in terms of how every American taxpayer dollar is spent. And the programs that we fund have to be measurable, and they have to work. And then we have to communicate that to the American people. And I know that's the work that the Alliance is going to continue to do. Thank you all so much for being here from the beginning. I so look forward to see the incredible things you're going to accomplish, and I will be right there with you every step of the way. Thank you so much.
Let's give it up for James Waltenshaw. I also want to say thank you one more time to the 30 volunteers from the Alliance for American Leadership who are phone banking, canvassing, and getting out the vote for James. We are so happy to be behind James, and we're going to be behind him in the general election as well. So let's give it up for them. When James was was saying was absolutely right. We need to work with members of Congress to tell them that their constituents, that their voters will be there for them if they're there for us on foreign aid. And with that, I would like to introduce the co-chair of our board, Joel Stennett.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to thank you all today for taking the time out of your incredibly busy schedules to speak with us and hear from us about why we care about the Alliance for American Leadership. For those of you who don't know me, as formal way of introduction, my name is Joel Stennett. I'm the other co-chair, Cam Morales. And I want to speak briefly to you about why foreign aid, in particular this organization, is incredibly important to me. With all the division in this country, I find it imperative that we get involved, particularly get involved in causes that we care about. As a proud child of an immigrant, I found and I was taught to love this country, and the best way to love your country is by getting involved. We have people not too far from this location who would tear down the walls and all the relationships that we've built over the past 50 years. And personally to me, in my family's home country, we've had China come in, develop roads and the Belt and Road Initiative that we see in Western Africa, and now America has our adversaries out our back door. Now personally, I don't think that's a great idea. However, if you personally don't believe that foreign aid matters for geopolitical reasons, we can talk about all the economic reasons. But we're not getting into this right now. I believe overall it is imperative that we give back, we share with each other our relationships, our resources, and overall make America better by providing each other around the world with our greatness. Now I also want to formally introduce a former worker of USAID and a proud advocate of this mission, Dr. Megan O'Rourke. Dr. Megan O'Rourke has over a decade of experience working with USAID in Cambodia as an FSL and as an implementing partner in the Innovation Lab. She most recently worked as a lead change scientist for the U.S. Department of Agriculture's National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and before joining that, she was a tenured professor at Virginia Tech for Sustainable Agriculture. There she worked on the USAID Integrated Pest Management Innovation Lab in Cambodia, Bangladesh, and Nepal. Before that, she was also worked in USAID in Nepal fully. Her background is she has a PhD in agricultural ecology from the Cornell University, a master's in etymology and agronomy from Iowa State University, and a bachelor's in biology from Stony Brook University. Finally, she is a Brooks Fellow with Congresswoman Shelley Pingree, where she served as Senior Agriculture and Environment Advisor. So please give a warm welcome to my dear friend, Dr. Megan O'Rourke.
Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Thank you especially to my fellow ex-federal workers and USAID colleagues. I know this is an incredibly difficult time, and we never would have thought 6 months ago that we would be here today. It would have been unimaginable. I want to ask you guys, I was a professor, so please raise your hand if you remember January 20th. Or when you first read the horrible executive order entitled Reevaluating and Realigning United States Foreign Aid. You remember that? I had my PhD, I had a husband, I had 3 children, and I actually was packing up my bags because we were moving to Cambodia. I was going to be working with USAID as their climate change advisor, and in fact, we had our diplomatic passports in hand. And that was a day that I felt like I had really achieved my dreams. In Cambodia, it was a Feed the Future country, and we did really important work there. We were helping to raise yields of rice and vegetable production, and we were helping to preserve forests that were community forests that were otherwise slated to be cut down for development purposes. But it was more than just that, right? never shows up in a spreadsheet, that never gets reported to Congress. What we were doing was forging these deep, lasting relationships with the local workers, with the contractors we worked with every day. In fact, I became so close with my Khmer teacher at the embassy, and knock on wood, because he still has a job for now, that 6 years after my family packed out of Cambodia, we were still in touch, and he offered to host my daughter with his family for a year after she graduated high school as a gap year. She taught English, she lived with the family in their kind of more communal way of living, slept in the same room with the cousin of the family. And one day I was actually visiting over there because I still continued to work as an implementing partner while I was a professor. And so every year I would go back to Cambodia, Bangladesh, and Nepal to work on innovation lab projects. And the family sat me down, 2 chairs, and I didn't quite know what was happening, but I was getting proposed to as a mother to set up my daughter with their nephew. And frankly, I would have been all for it. I loved their family. My daughter, on the other hand, was a little less keen on the idea. So be it. I will say that she did end up eloping with a man she met in Australia just 2 years after that. So, you know, could have happened. So, working with USAID, I've worked in a bunch of places, right? And it's more than a job. It's a passion. It's a way of life. When I was in Cambodia, I was never more proud to be an American than when I was there. I lived where I saw a government regime that did not respect human rights, that did not respect or even value the humanity of their own citizenry. And I loved being an American more than ever before. That is what we bring. It may not be written down in metrics. It may not be reported, but we bring a love of humanity and our culture and sharing that to the world. And we have lost that under this administration. I believe that today we are at a historic moment. There is pain and suffering that especially my colleagues here at USAID feel deeply, but we have the opportunity to plant the seed, to regrow what USAID looks like. This door has closed, and we never would have chosen that. We would never have chosen to lose our jobs. But this is an opportunity also where I feel that we can reimagine, to rebuild. Today, as of July 1st, we should all take the time to mourn, but we also can heal and then rebuild and to create something new and beautiful and spectacular. And I believe that, and I thank very much being here and the opportunity to see this movement catalyzed so that we will not be traumatized by this administration. In fact, this administration thought that they could hurt us, that they could push us around and traumatize us, but they had no idea what was coming when they pushed out tens of thousands of smart, hardworking, dedicated civil servants. Yes. They have something coming to them because we will not be silent. We have the dedication and perseverance that in 2026, times they are a-changing. And we are going to help make them change. And we are going to see a new era of international development. And we are at the foundation of making that happen. Thank you.
With that, I want to introduce Danny Suarez, one of our senior defense policy advisors. Danny Suarez was former Deputy Inspector General at the Defense Health Agency and has been leading many of our meetings with members of Congress. So Danny, where are you at? I don't see you. Danny, you back there? All right, well, Danny Suarez will come up at some point, but in the meantime, I'd like to introduce Phil another senior national security leader and a good friend. Phil? Thank you.
24 hours ago, I was at the City Commission meeting in Key West, Florida, where foreign assistance and foreign aid was a factor because it represents a failure of American leadership. And I tee that up because I want you to bear in mind Cuba and Haiti as two of the intractable problems that prove the point that we need to do better. I am Phil Ayer, a retired U.S. Navy commander who has spent my professional career doing things that are integrated with diplomacy and foreign assistance and foreign aid. Specifically, working in General Colin Powell's Joint Staff when we were changing the footprint and the missions of the United States from Cold War containment into something else, something more modern. And foreign aid was a key and integral part of that. Later on in life, after having lived overseas, etc., I was also having 4-star staff responsibility for developing the U.S. naval strategy for U.S. naval forces in the former Soviet Union, in the Mediterranean, in lots of Africa, and around other parts of the world. And I lay that as background to say that in addition to the good points that are made here today, is that the national security aspect of how we integrate our aid and our diplomacy has real life and death implications, consequences for your sons and daughters serving, for our prosperity here at home, and just a little bit of the nuts and bolts of that. So when you're crafting what does a military do in the world, you think about, or military planners, strategists, think about 3 main concrete things within the military sphere. One is access. Access for our ships, our planes, our troops to go into conflict anywhere. We need the planning and the relationships and the infrastructure to make that happen, to enable that to happen. 2 is the overall interoperability with foreign forces, whether it be NATO allies, allies in the Pacific, and allies who are yet to be allies, but we're building them up to have common values as expressed in their way of life, our way of life, and our priorities. Foreign assistance, or the security assistance programs that go into building up military and policing infrastructure capability of our friends and our neighbors. So that is nowhere to be advanced without integrating foreign aid and foreign assistance. And I would say the opposite is true as well. So as we think about what happened to USAID as an agency, and we think about what the State Department is supposed to be doing, let us consider and have an open mind to what is possible in the future as we rebuild. The integrated aspect of all of those things make it so that a guy like me and a guy like you and a woman like you can go to Ukraine and put an American flag on the dashboard, as I have done, an American flag next to a Ukrainian flag, and go through checkpoints with a trailer full of aid, small scale, but the human contact is real, and deliver something that matters. And when you're going through a place like that, it's so nice to be welcomed as the good guy. When has America been a good guy? Well, it's actually not that uncommon. It's not that uncommon because we've had decades of foreign assistance and foreign aid in our friends in Africa, our friends in Asia, and around the world. So back to Key West, Florida. What was happening in Key West, Florida? Well, it was a contentious meeting. There's a lot more leadership in the audience than on the dais. The audience was in tune to these kind of problems. The dais was in tune to keeping their jobs.
No one, including myself, on this team has taken any sort of salary at all. We are all here care. We are here because there are 14 million lives on the line. If foreign aid continues to be shut down, thank you guys. And I'm doing that because I believe in what we're doing. I believe in this movement. I believe it will work. I believe we will bring back foreign aid programs. And everyone here, every implementer, every former USAID employee who has lost their job will get their job back and will be doing that incredible work across the world, preserving American leadership, saving lives, doing what you know you have to do. I believe in what we're doing. And I also want to ask, if you guys don't mind, open up your phone. Everyone open up their phone, please. I want you to text A4, the number 4, AL, to 53555. That's A, the number 4, AL, to 53555. If you want to donate $5, cover the drinks from tonight, go for it. $5 is great. If you said, maybe you heard something meaningful tonight, want to donate 50, do it. If you want to donate, 500, 5,000, be a leader in our group, do it. And please reach out to me too, reach out to Cam, reach out to Joel. Let us know if you want to be part of our coalition, if you want to be a campaign volunteer, if you're interested in being a senior policy advisor or a member of our advisory board. Let us know. If you want to be a field director, a state chair, organize your state for American leadership, let us know. Be a part of this coalition tonight. And finally, I want to recognize a few of our incredible donors who have agreed to double every donation made tonight. So I want to give a round of applause to Joel Stennett, Cam Morales, and Michael Belitsky, and our other donors who have all agreed to double contributions made tonight. So thank you guys. Do what you can. Please help us. Let's rebuild American leadership. Let's restore foreign aid. Reach out to me. Be part of our coalition. Thank you. Have a drink and have a great night. Thank you all.